Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank the French consulate in Vancouver, especially Rénal Bellet, for this invitation to present my work. Thank you also to Joel and Jeff Derksen, who will be my discussant. So it's a big honor and a big pleasure to be here, especially since I've been here a long time ago. More than 20 years ago, I was a student in Montreal and decided to cross Canada by train. It was a great experience. And so I'm very happy and very glad to be back here. So I will speak about ethical consumerism. I don't know how much time do I have to remember. Okay. 45, fine. Thank you. First, maybe the first question could be why studying ethical consumption? There is a kind of evident answer to this question, which will be, yes, there is these changes in consumption practices, and these changes are concerned with the integration of some new considerations by consumers when they purchase their products. For example, they integrate these ethical, moral, environmental considerations. So we need to understand who is doing that and why do consumers take into consideration these new issues. But starting from that question makes the assumption that ethical consumption is first in the head of consumers. It's like people who will ask for one morning say, okay, now I want to be ethical. I want to be an ethical consumer. So, and this is not exactly what happens. What happens is that consumers are supplied with some solutions to change their practices. So if we want to study ethical consumption, we have to start from another point of view, which would be, why do some social movement organizations supply consumers with that kind of solution? So why social movements do address consumers? And which role do they attribute to consumers? Because this is exactly the point from which we have to start to study ethical consumption. How do they mobilize consumers? And in a way, could social movements be influential on markets? And do social movement organizations give capacities, give agencies, give power to consumers? So this is a broader set of issues, but which can allow us to better understand what is ethical consumption. So as I did this research, my empirical entry was through social movement organizations and not directly through consumers. So I studied organizations, I studied their claims, their repertoire of protest, and their tools. And that would be basically what I'm going to speak about here. But another starting point which is important is to think about ethical consumption as something that is not really new. Ethical consumption started with market relations. So it's very connected to some past experiences about ethical consumption. And we are lucky because historians documented a lot this issue of consumers' mobilization in the past. So we have a lot of books and papers about these consumers' mobilizations. And when we have a look at this work done by historians, we can identify two categories of consumers' mobilization. One of these would be to make the marketplace more ethical. So these mobilizations have really consumption issues Their claims are about consumptions and markets. And these movements will try to involve consumers in the regulation of markets. So there are some examples that I can give on these consumers' mobilizations. For example, what the cooperative movement did in Europe and even here in North America. We have also the famous examples of the consumers' leagues in the United States, for example, the white label campaign from the National Consumer League, which was led by Florence Kelly. There are also the examples of the meat boycotts, for example, I like the name of this organization, the Ladies Anti-Beef Trust Association, isn't it nice? So, and the idea of these different mobilizations was to involve consumers more deeply in the regulation of market. They shouldn't be only, the final end of consumption and production process. They should be involved even in production issues. The other category of mobilizations was really different. The claims of the movement was not exactly consumption or even economic issues or market issues. Their issues were different. It was about building identities, building citizenship rights. And what these movements did was to use the market as an arena for protest, to extend their protest to the market. So the most famous example is the Boston Tea Parties in the United States. But there are less well-known examples of this type of mobilizations. For example, the free labor product stores in Baltimore in the 1820s. It was a group of abolitionists. We decided to mobilize consumers, to make consumers more aware about the problem of slavery. And the solution they found was to try to create some supply chains for products such as cotton, sugar, that type of products that were made with slavery. And these new supply chains was supposed to produce that types of products without using slavery. So this is why they were called free labor products. And those groups of abolitionists used to sell these products directly from their garage, from their houses. So in a way, this is really close from the fair trade industry that we have now, because this is the same idea of building independent alternative supply chains for products and to try to mobilize, to increase the awareness of consumers through the purchase of some products. And what was really interesting was that the debates that created these initiatives in the 1820s are really close from the debate that we have with fair trade today. Because, this issue of should consumers be made responsible from a global problem or bigger problem, and should this responsibility of consumers be the solution to solve the issue? So those examples are very interesting for that reason. So we had also the AFL's blacklist of companies, the Don't Buy Where You Can't Work campaign by the civil rights movement, the table grape boycott in the 1950s. So all these mobilizations, as I said, were not directed to solve some economic problem or consumption problem or regulation problem. They were aimed at using the market to build some public problem regarding identities and citizenship rights. So, but saying that, I still have not defined what is ethical consumption. So, as you may understand, I'm using a very broad definition of ethical consumption. In a way, ethical consumption concerns the connection between consumption practices and politics. So this is a broad definition, and I think this is worth it to use a broad definition. So what social movements do when they promote ethical consumption is they try to connect their claim to consumption practices. So they try to connect their claims with the kind of solution that consumers may bring to the problem, to the issue they are bringing. So what they have to do as social movement organizations is to create bigger reflexivity of consumers. Consumers should be aware that there could be a solution for the issue. There could be a solution for environmental issues, for development issues, for ethical issues, and that kind of issues. So they have to make these connections between claims and consumption practices. And those practices may be very, very different. I'm using a little number of examples. For example, that could be buying fair trade coffee. But that could be also to decide to ride a bike instead of driving a car. It could be also to boycott a brand. It could be to boycott watching television, because when you watch television, you watch advertisements and then you can consume more. It could be also to be involved in a community garden or in a community-supported agriculture. I know you have that kind of schemes here, the box schemes where you can buy directly from a farmer a box of vegetable and fruits. So that could be all that kind of practices. So it's also very broad. So how can we assess all these practices? So I'm proposing a way of analyzing ethical consumption by asking two kinds of questions. First, what kind of commitment do ethical consumption address to, or do social movement organizations which promote ethical consumption address to individual consumers, or do they address to groups of consumers that are considered in a way as groups of activists? And the other question will be on which space, on which arena the protest action is organized. Is it organized on the marketplace, be it the conventional marketplace, supermarkets and the internet, or be it a kind of alternative marketplace, like the co-op, or even the community-supported agriculture, or the alternative trading system or exchange system. So, but this is the marketplace, which could be the space for protest action. Or is the space for protest action broader than that, and could be the public sphere as a whole, and you can use as a social movement organization the media or even the political space, and you can also use the traditional political space to organize the protest. And when I cross the two questions, I have something which I hope is the broadest representation of the diversity of ethical consumption practices. So I will go through the different boxes of this table during my presentation. So the first box, when the space for protest action is the marketplace and individual consumers are targeted to make some commitment. So in this box, you have most of ethical consumption that is covered by media, by the media. There are the most famous actions, most famous practices of ethical consumption. This is all the situations in which we as a consumers may be asked to buy that differently, to change our purchasing routines, to make some changes in the choice we make when we buy products. So I will give some examples. So this is mobilizing individual consumers through the market. The market would be that specific arena where you can transform unaware consumers into consumers aware of the issues that are claimed by a social movement organization. So, and what will these organizations do could be also use a lot of different tools. So I'm presenting some of them here. For example, you have here, this is a kind of subvertising that have been used by social environmental organization, which shows that you don't know a lot about what is dangerous for you or not. And this is against GM food, and this is GM corn. And the GM corn could be dangerous for your health, but you don't know it. So what is written in French is it's no danger. And of course you can see that this is like, how do you call that in English? Gun, thank you. So, and this is subvertising. I don't know if you know about subvertising, but as we have here the Adbusters publication, I guess that some of you know that this is tactics that is used to use the usual tools used by companies to advertise their product to change the messages. So this is this kind of advertisement is to increase consumer awareness about some dangers that they may not know. But there are also some tools that are directly market devices, that, namely market devices that consumers are supposed to use on the market. For example, here, this is what we call co-branding. This is the little panda from the WWF, and this logotype is supposed to tell consumers, here you can buy this product because this is an eco-friendly product. So it's supposed to directly equip the choice of consumers in the marketplace, on the marketplace. And you have also some market standards, like here. I'm sure you know that label. It's the Forest Stewardship Council. It's supposed to tell consumers that the products they can choose here are also they are originating from sustainable forest. Here you have another market devices. This is from the Soil Association in UK, which is promoting organic products. Here it's another market devices. It's for promoting the fair trade activity of some companies. So most of these different market devices are directly available on the marketplace, on the shelves in the supermarkets. But there are also other market devices, such as this one, which is a shopping guide, which is proposed by the WWF, which is supposed to tell consumers what kind of fish they should buy. So you have a green list. They are the fish that you can buy, whenever you want. The orange list, these are the fish that you should buy, but please not too often. And the red list, of course, don't buy those fishes. So these shopping guides are made in a format such that they're supposed to be in the bag of consumers. You have to have them when you do your shopping, when you do your grocery shopping. So in a way, all those different devices are very close to what companies provide to consumer to help them to make their choice. So this idea is exactly to transform consumers as good shoppers, meaning good ethical shoppers. So the search effects of these different initiatives is to use the aggregative effects which work on markets, meaning that once every consumers, every one of us will do those choices, we will have a collective effects that will be beneficial for everybody, for every individual. So this is really using the market and using the aggregative effects of the market. So it's also what we can call a private politics, because it's supposed to regulate companies' activities by producing either positive or negative effects on firms' reputation. So this is really thought as a regulation, but a regulation that won't come from the state, a regulation that will come from individual and private choices. Also, other search effects could be media attention, because you know that kind of topics are very covered by the media. The journalists just love the issue of ethical consumption, I can tell you. This media coverage is also very efficient to broaden the audience also of social movement organizations. And of course, among the search effects are some changes in companies' supply. Here I can give you, it's a French example. It's a packaging of bread, of white bread. And what is really interesting here is that you can see that there is some information to consumers about the qualities of the bread. You know, here it's written sans croûte, meaning without crust. It's a quality of that bread. You have also here, I don't know how to say me in English, but maybe some of you do know. It's the white part of the bread. So it's 100% meat because you don't have any crust, of course. So, and here you have another quality of the products without any palm oil. And this quality of the product comes directly from what the social movement organization promoted for ethical consumption. So since a lot of environmental movements try to increase the awareness about the problem, the issues related to palm oil industry, they also explain to consumers, well, you should choose products without any palm oil. And here you can see that this is directly companies that are advertising this quality of the product. So you can trace directly what the social movement organizations try to do and how they succeed in doing that. And here you have other qualities of the products, which are, it's 100% French production, because you have all other social movement organizations who try to say, well, this is not good to produce abroad and we should produce in France, and that kind of claim. And here, this is directly the company which is using the same argument. And here, again, another argument, which is let me see. Yeah, it's a low package product. It means that it doesn't use as much as packaging that it used to use before. And you see all those arguments, like low packaging, 100% French production, palm oil free, are not really for the benefit of the consumer. It's like saying you should buy my products because this is good for other people than you. So this is also directly the effects that a social movement organization search to achieve through that kind of initiatives, targeting individual consumers through the marketplace. So now I'm going through another situation, which is mobilizing individual consumers through singular experience. So, sorry, it's in this case, individual consumers are mobilized, but not only on the marketplace, it's on the public sphere. So, in this case, social movement organizations or just social movements as a whole will try to mobilize individual consumers by promoting some individual experiences that each of us can follow if we want to. So these initiatives are alternative way of life experiences. And they are presented as kind of turnkey individual solutions that we can set into practices. For example, there is this book and documentary by Colin Bevan, which is called No Impact Man. It's this journalist used to spend 1 year living, trying to decrease its impact on the environment. So first he decided to go to farmer markets instead of going to supermarkets. Then, as far as I remember, he decided to stop using taxis. He bought a bike. Then he stopped using electricity. It was a big deal with his family, and tried to find some practical solution to cool his food by using a kind of African system with a pot in a pot. I don't know if you've seen the movie. So then the winter comes and it's really cold in the apartment. Then he asked also his wife to stop using some products that are not good for the environment. Also, they stopped to use a washing machine, so they have to wash their clothes on the bathroom. So it's a lot of also, yeah, they do compost. So it's a lot of solutions that are promoted during the movie and the book, which are really presented to consumers. Yeah, you can do the same. I tried. I had this experience, and you can do the same. So I'm using this example of Colin Bevan, but of course there is a lot of examples like this. There are also the living with 10 objects experience, the zero waste experience, the buy nothing day, and also Reynald told me about another local experience here. Sorry, I don't remember, but maybe you can.
100 mile diet.
Exactly. Okay. This is that kind of experiences that I proposed to consumers as a way to make some commitments as individuals. So, in this situation, the effects search eyes are, of course, to raise the awareness of consumers, because all these solutions are a way of pointing public problems. So they also try to change norms and to try to change individual practices, individual consumption practices. Now I'm turning towards commitments that are asked to be collective. So the idea is to ask consumers to act really as citizens, to gather and make some collective involvement. So I will first turn to that kind of collective commitment, but on the marketplace first. So this is mobilizing through the organization of alternative consumption groups, and there are a lot of examples of that. Of course, there is what the co-ops movement does. So here my examples are in France. So you can see here it's a small supermarket which is managed by a co-ops. In a co-ops, you are supposed as a consumer to own part of the store. And in this situation, of course, consumers are supplied with a broad range of different organic, fair trade products, local products. But they are also supposed, here, for example, to get some information of some public issues. Here, this is about fighting against GM food again. So, see, you have the products and the information signs. So you're supposed, when you come to the co-op, not only to buy products, but to involve as a community, as a collective into some public issues. Here, it's a situation in which, as a consumer, you can meet the farmers directly and you can have discussions with them and discuss about their production decisions and that kind of thing. So this is the case of the co-ops. Also, I spoke about the community-supported agriculture. We have the same type of organizations in France. They are called the AMAP. Also in Italy, they have the gas. It's basically the same thing. It's the idea that as a consumer, you can involve in a group and directly have connection and interactions with a specific farmer, and decide with them what type of production, what type of agriculture, what type of farming it will do. But there are things that are maybe this here. One of the AMAP. This is the organization of the distribution, because the delivery is co-organized by consumers. So in a way, consumers have to take part in a certain part of the production process. They can also help the farmer. So, sorry, I was saying that there are some less known initiatives here. This is the raw milk movement in the United States. And this case is really interesting. In some state in the United States, the sale of raw milk is forbidden. But some consumers want to consume raw milk, and it's not only a question of their own expectation, of their own preferences. They want to defend that raw milk is better for the health, and it's a less processed product, so it's also better for the environment. So it's a very political positioning regarding that product. And since they are not allowed to buy raw milk, what they do is they buy a sherd or part of a sherd or part of a cow, and then they're not buying any more raw milk since they own the cow or the sherd. So this case is very interesting as a way consumers may organize as a collective to find some practical solution to protest, because this is a way of protesting. It's not only a way of having access to that product, of consuming raw milk, it's a way also of saying, yes, we have to fight because this is a political issue. So there are a lot of examples. Also, you have the case of vehicle sharing. You have also the case of housing sharing. all these collective solutions to in which consumers and citizens will gather their energy to say, yeah, there is another economy which can exist that can allow us to have access to the different services and products we need. So in this case, the effect search are, of course, the media attention, because the media made a lot of coverage of those examples, but not all of them. In France, it's only the AMAC, the CSA, that are promoted by the media. Also, it's another type of effect search is to create alternative exchange system to demonstrate that it can exist what can be called a share economy or a repair economy instead of only the property economy. So it's really a way of demonstrating what could exist. So it's really a political positioning. So also the changes in norm are searched, the creation of communities, the transformation of consumers into activists and proselytes, because the idea is that through these initiatives, consumers can convince other consumers. And more specifically, it's to empower consumers in governance processes. For example, the case of the French CSA, the French Community Supported Agriculture, the idea is to empower consumers, to give them access to the regulation, to the governance, to some decisions from which they are generally excluded. Like, as a consumer, usually you can decide, would I like to buy carrot or tomatoes? Okay, maybe I can choose, would I like to buy local tomato instead of tomato from everywhere else? But I won't be able to go farthest in my choice. For example, would I like these tomatoes to be grown with such type of farming system which uses the water that way or the other way? No, I won't have access to that, because I won't have access to any production decisions, because these production decisions are made by farmers, and actually they are not made by individual farmers, but the whole farming system. So in these initiatives, the idea is that the consumer could go as far as possible into the decisions of production activities. And also the idea is to get some change in the regulation. For example, in the case also of local food, there has been in France some recent public policy about promoting local food, and this is exactly an effect from these organizations, these social movement organizations. Then the fourth box, when consumers are collectively committed and to protest on the public sphere. So this is again another type of ethical consumption. In this case, the idea is to create really collective mobilization through ordinary protest. So as you can see, this is a demonstration by the degrowth movement in France. But here, you have a street performance by the anti-advertising movement in France. It's written, spend less, think more. In French, it's kind of joke because it's dépensez moins, pensez plus. So this is supposed to call upon consumers' attention directly in the street, but also those actions are organized within small groups of activists that are very temporarily committed to do these actions. So you can go one day to do that and stop being an activist. It's just an occasion for having fun, making a protest, and using the street to do it. Here, you have what the free gun movement does. I don't know if you know the free gun movements. They are protesting against food waste. You know, we are wasting 40% of the food we buy. It means that 40% of the food we buy will go directly to the garbage. So it's a lot. So what the free gun movement does is they are protesting against that. But of course, a solution could be just to demonstrate in the street and say, this is not good to waste food. But what they do with it is different, is they just collect some food from the garbages of supermarkets, garbages of ordinary people, and they collect all the food, they can collect the food which is still packaged and whose expiry date hasn't been... okay, you understand me. Sorry about that. So it's some food that you still can consume. You still can eat. And what they do is basically they eat the food or they give it to the poor, and they film all the process and they put that on the internet, and then they demonstrate, look, there is some food that we waste and food that is still eatable. Here you have the action from the greenwashers in France. I'm sure you have some greenwashers here also. It's some groups that are also temporarily constituted to demonstrate directly in some situation where companies promote their products. Here, it's a big car fair that we have in France every year. And this is against Volkswagen because Volkswagen was, in a way, aggressive against environmental groups, and environmental groups are also very aggressive against Volkswagen. So it's a kind of war that has occurred. So here, so it's a joke again, Volkswagen vous enfume, nous enfume. It means that Volkswagen is lying to us. Because Volkswagen tries to promote its cars, saying that they're good for the environment, and the greenwashers will say, no, it's not true, exactly the truth. So in this case, effect search are putting new public problems on political agenda, and this is typically the case of the free guns movement. And in Europe, and I'm sure it's the case here also, a lot of public policies included this issue recently. We have some political public actions trying to regulate food waste. So it's putting new public problems on political agendas. It's also to empower consumers by transforming them into activists, even though this is temporary activists. Try to change the norms, try to pressure companies, and try also to achieve some changes in regulation. So, of course, these different effects on consumers' involvement and on consumption are really different. And to make a very sharp, maybe differentiation, I can say that when the type of commitment are individual, this consumers' involvement is really temporary but can be potentially large. It means that consumers are involved in a very local situation, but a broader number of consumers may be concerned. So it's because this ethical consumption relies on information and choice. Everybody who makes some choices on the market can be concerned. But at the same time, this is very temporary. because it gives you, as a consumer, a poor reflexivity, because even though you will be concerned by a specific issue and a specific problem when you buy one type of products, you can just forget it the day after. Or you can say, okay, I bought some fair trade coffee, I'm good, I'm a good person. Let's go and fly, take a plane to go wherever in the world, and it's not a big deal. So you have a lot of rebound effects. The involvement will be very labile, but at the same time, this is still interesting for social movement organization, because you can target large groups, you can target everybody, even though it is more specifically high income and highly educated consumers that respond to this solicitation. In the collective involvement, you have more lasting involvement, but also more restricted, because of course you can empower consumers, you can connect between several problems and build high reflexivity, because you will engage, you will involve consumers into communities that will create some social control, high social control on these communities, and you can make new norms and diffuse those practical solutions. But that all these different norms and solutions will still last in small groups. And I'm close to the end of the presentation. I don't want to talk too much. We have to say that ethical consumption is a very, very ambiguous type of protest, since consumption can be at the same time a great deal of criticism. Most of these different movements will say we are consuming too much. Consumption is a big issue. We are an over-consuming society. But at the same time, consumption may be invested as an activity with virtue as long as you consume ethical. So it's ambiguous. And we have the same ambiguity with the relationship with markets. So markets are both a space for action. You can act as a consumer through the market, and you can act politically through the market. But at the same time, markets are a great deal of criticism. And I would say that the specificity of ethical consumptions is that consumers are both a target, meaning that the organization, the social movement will try to change consumers, and consumers are targeted by these movements. But at the same time, they are part of the solution. So they are part of the problem and part of the solution, because consumers may be also levers to change. So as a result, from these ambiguities, ethical consumption has a diversity of impacts. So its first impact is, and this is very paradoxical, is that it expands markets. Why does it expand market? Because it creates new products, new market devices, new supply, new distribution channels, new category for valuation. So it increases the market by expanding the choice possibility. And in a way, markets are considered as powerful tool for the allocation of choices, exactly as companies do. So the second type of impact is that it sets agendas. It sets agendas for companies by proposing them some solution or creating for them business opportunities. And it sets agendas for public policies, as I demonstrated, I hope. New public problems are set on the agendas, new regulations can come out from these. And third effect, changing norms in consumption practices and in consumer governance. So to conclude, I will really plea for the idea that consumption can be considered as a repertoire of protest. as long as you take into consideration the broad categories that I presented. And in ethical consumption, we have to consider that consumers are not so much a target, actually, because most of the social movement organizations don't believe so much that consumers as individuals can change, but they can convince companies and states that they are changing. And this is this rhetorical argument that is made by, which is made by ethical consumption promoters. It's the idea that they will try to convince companies that there are good business opportunities. It's possible to make money from ethical consumption because maybe consumers' expectations are changing. And also they can convince public actors that there are also some new citizens' expectations regarding regulation and governance. And most of the new public policies that have been set, especially in France, regarding ethical consumption directly comes from the idea that political actors can see some opportunity in promoting ethical consumption. And when I say opportunity, I say political opportunity in doing this. Thank you very much.